Welcome back to the special edition of Power and Politics from Washington, D.C. Congressman Tom Suozzi had his say on the House floor, but what about the Republicans who also represent Long Island? What does Suozzi's arrival mean for them and their ability to work to get things done directly for Long Islanders? This week we spoke with Congressman Anthony D'Esposito. Congressman, good to see you. We are here, of course, as we cover Tom Suozzi swearing into Congress. What did you think of his speech and his message?
I think that, Tom sent a message, or tried to send a message, saying that he was willing to work across party lines to deliver for Long Island and New York. Obviously, he delivered the normal jabs at Republicans on the other side of the aisle. But we'll see. We'll see if he can deliver on the promises that he made of wanting to work in a bipartisan fashion. Obviously, it's a little bit different now. The Republicans are in the majority. So we'll see if the campaign rhetoric equates to actual governing.
During the campaign, Suozzi mentioned his previous stint in Congress when he did work with Peter King on several issues. Do you see some of those issues where you could potentially work with Tom Suozzi?
Yeah, and listen, I think that I've made that clear during my tenure here in the 118th Congress. Sponsoring, co-sponsoring bills with members of the other side of the aisle, whether it was specific to New York and Long Island, or our national security, or with regards to keeping important transportation hubs open in the tri-state area, specifically in my district. I've worked across the aisle with Democrats to deliver for New York and Long Island, and I'll continue to do that with anyone and everyone. I said that during the campaign, and I continue to live it out now.
It's a never-ending election cycle in the House, as you well know, but even more so for Suozzi in particular now coming in here after this special election. Does that make it that much harder to really get things done?
Listen, I mean, Washington, D.C. seems like a tough place to get things done, but there are a lot of good people here doing the work of the American people, and that's one of the things that I try to stick to each and every day. You try to keep your head down and move forward and keep working on the things that matter most. I think that on Long Island, and specifically in my district, I represent a district where Democrats, had it for almost a quarter of a century, and clearly people were fed up with the way that Democrats were handling our district, or else they would have kept electing Democrats. So I think that my purpose here is to be the voice of the people back home, to work in a bipartisan fashion to deliver for New York and Long Island, and make sure that the first opportunity I get to be home and have my boots on the ground and be able to hear what people need and what people want, that's what I'm going to continue to do.
We've heard from some congressional Republicans who expressed frustration that Santos was expelled and then a Democrat won the race. Do you have any regrets about pushing to expel Santos?
I have zero regrets. I think it was the right thing to do. I think that George Santos was or is a stain on this institution. He was not representing the people of the 3rd Congressional District. I know we had this conversation, and I had it with many of my colleagues. When you poll the 3rd Congressional District at the time, and nearly 80% of the individuals that lived there said that they didn't feel that they were represented by their member of Congress. New Yorkers, just like I do, 80% of New Yorkers don't agree on anything. So the fact that they did, and the fact that he continued to double down, I think was a clear indicator that he didn't belong in the House of Representatives, and I think that the ethics investigation spoke for itself. So no, whether I ran in a district like I run in, or I ran in a deep red district, I lay my head on my pillow every night knowing that I did the right thing. Obviously, would I have liked the outcome to be different, and we would have liked a Republican to hold that seat? Absolutely, and I wish that was the case. But the fact that he was expelled, I do not regret that one bit.
Congressman, thank you.
Of course.
Earlier this week, we also spoke with D'Esposito's fellow freshman Republican Congressman, Nick LaLota. Congressman Tom Suozzi said to be sworn in tonight, and he says he's going to speak directly about bipartisanship, urging people to work together. You've been here the last 2 years. You think it's going to fall on deaf ears?
There hasn't been much working together from the other side of the aisle. Most recently, we saw 208 House Democrats block a SALT bill from even coming to the floor. If Tom Suozzi is going to be true to his word, he'll be the only one in that conference crossing the aisle to ensure that we advance good initiatives like SALT and like border security. If that's truly what he does here in this town, it'd be more than welcomed.
Are there some issues where you see common ground with yourself, the other members of the congressional delegation on Long Island, and Tom Suozzi?
Well, I would hope that we would find issues related to affordability and public safety, specifically SALT, the state and local tax deduction, and public safety through things like border security and rejecting some of the liberal policies coming out of New York City, like sanctuary city policies and like right to shelter policies. Republicans have stood strong on those issues, and we would welcome any partner from any party to help us in that fight.
You endorsed Mazi Pilip, as the rest of the delegation did as well. She didn't win, obviously. Have you been hearing from other Republicans who did not want to expel Santos because they were worried this might happen?
Yeah, I have zero regrets for having expelled George Santos. He didn't meet the mere minimum standard here. Total liar, pathological person who did not deserve to be in Congress. If we're going to do things like hold President Biden accountable and Secretary Mayorkas accountable, it's only right that we hold our own people accountable as well.
Having said that, are you hearing from people who are upset about the way it played out?
Sure. I mean, we already have a slim majority here in the House of Representatives, and now it's one less. But I would argue that you really can't get much done with a 4-seat majority that you can't get done with a 3-seat majority. So that numbers game is just that. It's a bit of a game, and I'm focused on ensuring that we have results moving forward.
And then lastly, on the process, so Suozzi is sworn in today. You got to do it all again in November, obviously, as do you, as does every member of the House. What does that mean in terms of trying to find common ground? You're always got to be ready for that next election cycle.
Yeah, I think that folks' campaign rhetoric needs to match their results in this town. You know, a lot of us have campaigned on some serious issues. Me, myself, I focused on things like the border, on affordability, and holding the administration accountable, overseas issues related to China, Iran, and Russia. And I think the rubber meets the road in how folks vote on their record. And every 2 years, we go up to the voters and we ask them to validate us to ensure that we're on the right track. And I think it's important that we have those results along the way and not just have the rhetoric.
When we return, can they all get along? We're going to speak with a veteran of Capitol Hill, former congressional staffer and current lobbyist Kevin Fogarty on the different dynamics at play. You're watching a special edition of Power and Politics from Washington, D.C. We'll be right back.